Lesson 8.8 is on writing linear equations. So just a couple warm-ups. The first problem says find the slope and y-intercept for this equation. So our slope is that number before our x. So in this case, our slope is 1/2. Our y-intercept is what comes after that slope in our x. So -3. So you could either write that as -3, or you can give me the coordinate 0, -3. Then number 2 says graph y equals 3x plus 1 using slope and y-intercept. So when I graph, I start with my y-intercept. I know my y-intercept is 1. So I go 0, up 1, there's my y-intercept. Then my slope is 3, which is the same as 3/1. So from my y-intercept, I'm going to go up 3/1. I can also go down 3 to the left 1. And there is our line. Oops, down 3, left 1. Connect those points. And there we have it. So again, plot your y-intercept, then use your slope. So slope-intercept form we talked about previously is written as y equals mx plus b. So m is the slope, b is the y-intercept. So if we're given an equation with the slope slope of -1/4 and y-intercept of 7, all we have to do is plug those in. So we have y equals, slope is -1/4, so I have -1/4 x, and then my y-intercept is 7, so I'm going to do plus 7. Then, to write an equation of a line in slope-intercept form, we are going to look at this graph. We're going to find the y-intercepts, and then we're going to find the slope. So again, we have to plug in y equals mx plus b, where b is the y-intercept. So that I'm going to start with. The y-intercept is going to be negative because we're going down 1, 2, 3, 4. So my y-intercept is -4. And then my slope, since I can see it crosses at these 2 points, really you can pick any 2 points that this line goes through. So you could see, oh, well, up 1/1, so my slope is 1. Or you could do up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1, 2, 3, 4. 4/4 is also 1. So y equals, you can either write that as 1x or just y equals x minus 4. Number 3 says write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line with a slope of -3 and y-intercept -5. So again, we have y equals mx plus b. My slope is -3, so we have -3x. And then plus, my y-intercept is -5, so plus -5. You could also write that as y equals -3x minus 5. Same thing, both work. Then when we're given a graph, again, we have to do y equals mx plus b. I like to start with my y-intercept, which I can see is 3, and it's a positive, so we have plus 3. And then we have to find our slope. So I'm going to use these 2 points here. Remember, it's rise over run. So I'm going down 2. So -2 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 5. So my slope is -2/5. And then I have my x. So again, we have our slope is our m. Our y-intercept is our 3. Your y-intercept is where your line crosses the y-axis. Your slope is that rise over run. There is another way to write equations and to solve when you're given 2 points. So we had y equals mx plus b, which was slope-intercept. We can also use point-slope form. So this is another equation that we're going to use. M is the slope, and then x1, y1 is a point on the line. So this would be really good to have written down in your notes. Number 5 says write an equation for the line that passes through 7, 0 and 6, 3. First step is to find the slope. So to find slope, we just use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then we just plug in our numbers. So we have 3 minus 0 over 6 minus 7. 3 minus 0 is 3. 6 minus 7 is negative 1. So my slope is negative 3 over 1, or you can just write it as negative 3. B, use the slope and the coordinates of either point to write the equation in point-slope form. So I'm going to use this equation y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. My slope is m, so that's going to be negative 3. And then we just pick one of the points to use. So I'm just going to use 7, 0. You could also use 6, 3 and you get the same answer. So I'm going to do y minus, and here I plug in that y value, which is 0, equals, and then m is negative 3 times x minus, and then x is 7. I'm getting that from the point. Now I need to solve this. So y minus 0 is just y, so y equals. Then I'm going to distribute that negative 3. So negative 3 times x is negative 3x, and negative 3 add up times negative 7 is 21. Now my equation is written in slope-intercept form. We're good to go. We have the y-intercept and we have the slope. We're going to do the same thing again with these 2 points. So we're going to use that equation y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the slope. So I'm going to take 5 minus 4 over 6 minus negative 2, which is 1/8. So my slope is 1/8. Then I'm just going to choose one of these points. I'm going to do the first one. You'd get the same answer if you chose the second. We have y minus, y1 is 4, equals, m is my slope, so 1/8 times x minus, and x1 is negative 2. Then I'm going to rewrite this as y minus 4 equals 1/8 times x, and then since it's a double negative, it's going to be plus 2. And here I need to solve this so that it's written in slope-intercept form. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute this 1/8. So I get y minus 4 equals 1/8 x plus, and then 1/8 times 2 over 1. We can cross simplify, and it is 1/4. 2/8 is the same as 1/4. And now I need to add 4 to both sides. But when I'm adding fractions, they have to have common denominators. So I'm going to change this 4 to have a denominator of 4. So it's going to need to be 16 over 4, because 16 over 4 is 4. So I'm going to add 16/4 to both sides. Now they have common denominators, so I can add them. So I get y equals 1/8 x plus 17/4. And there is my equation. Writing an equation from a table. So we're given some x and y values, and it says in point-slope form, and it passes through all these points. So the first thing we're going to do is find the slope. I am going to just choose these first 2, and I'm going to find my slope. So I'm going to take 16 minus 10 over negative 2 minus negative 1. 16 minus 10 is 6. Negative 2 plus 1, because minus negative is addition. So negative 2 plus 1 is going to be negative 1. So our slope is negative 6. And then we're going to use point-slope form. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. We can choose any one of these points. I'm going to choose the point 0, 4 for this to plug in. Again, you could choose any and we'd get the same answer. So I have y minus y1 is 4 equals, m is my slope, so -6 times x minus, and my x is 0. And then I'm going to solve. I got to distribute. So I have y minus 4 equals -6x, and then -6 times 0 is just going to give me 0. So I'm just going to leave it as -6. Now I'm going to add 4 to both sides because I want y by itself. And I'm left with y equals -6x plus 4. So now we have it in slope-intercept form. Our slope is -6, and our y-intercept is 4. Okay, the last problem that we have is writing an equation to make a prediction. So this one says the boiling point of water at an altitude of 1,080 feet is 210 degrees. At an altitude of 2,700 feet, the boiling point is 270 degrees. We need to write an equation for the situation. X is the altitude and y is the boiling point. So really what we're given here is we're given two ordered pairs. So x, when it's 1,080 feet, y, our temperature is going to be 210. Then when x is 2,700 feet, y is going to be 207. So we have two ordered pairs. We can find the slope, and then using point slope form, we can get it to slope intercept form. So first thing we're going to do to find the slope is we're going to take y minus x. So let's see, we have 207 minus 210 over 2,700 minus 1,080. So I'm finding the slope of this line. 207 minus 210 is going to give me -3 over 2,700 minus 1,080 is 1,620. I can divide both of these by 3, and I'm left with -1 over 540. Then I'm going to plug this into that long equation. So we have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I'm going to choose this first point. So we have y minus 210 equals -1 over 540 times x minus, and then I'm going to plug in that x value, 1,080. Then from here, I am going to first distribute my slope. And I know it gets kind of tedious, but that's okay. So we have y minus 210 equals -1 over 540x. And then since this is a negative, we can add up. So it's going to be positive. It's going to be 1,080 over 540. And that actually simplifies to 2. So we have plus 2. Then from there, I'm going to add 210 to both sides. And I get y equals -1 over 540x plus 212. So here's my equation. So it says describe what the slope and y-intercept mean. So the slope, -1 over 540, that means that when the altitude goes down 540, we are going to So the slope, what that represents is that when the temperature goes down 1 degree, we're going to go up or over 540 degrees. I'm sorry, 540 feet. So as you go up in feet, up in elevation, you are going to be going down in temperature. And then the y-intercept, so our y-intercept is 212 degrees. That just tells us what temperature it is at 0 altitude, so an altitude of 0 ground level. And then letter C says find the temperature water boils at 3,600 feet. So all we have to do for this is we're going to plug that number in for x. So we have negative 1 over 540 times 3,600 plus 212. I'm going to plug this into my calculator. So I'm going to do negative 1 divided by 540, and then I'm going to hit enter. That's my slope. And then I'm going to do times 3,600, hit enter. And then I get negative 6.6 repeating. That I'm going to add 212, and I'm left with y equals 205 we'll round that to 3 degrees Fahrenheit. So at 3,600 feet, our temperature is going to be 205.3 degrees Fahrenheit. And then this chart here would be really good to have in your notes. It just tells you how to write a linear equation. So if you're given a slope and y-intercept, you just plug them into the equation. If you have a graph, find the slope and the y-intercept, put them into the equation. If you're given 2 points, use point-slope form. And if you're given a table, you're again going to use point